Hello everyone. So this is yoga practice class number 4. You must have noticed that I have been numbering these yoga practice videos from 1 to 3 now, and this is class number 4. There is a reason why I have been numbering these videos because uh, I will be telling you the actual reason later on. But right now, understand that these videos are supposed to be followed in a chronological sequence. So starting with class number 1 to class number 4, you're actually going according to a particular chronology, according to a particular sequence. If you follow these practices according to this sequence, you will realize that it will allow your body to progress in a particular direction. Normally what happens is when you are practicing yoga, or if whenever someone is teaching you yoga, you just pick up random yoga poses and they just teach you, and there is no progression. What is important is there should be a system of yoga wherein you are progressing towards a more flexible and a healthier body. So by following this system of yoga wherein you are following particular poses and you're basically doing it according to a sequence, when you're doing it that way, you will see that your body will slowly become more and more flexible and will become healthier as and when you go on practicing it. So that is the reason why I said there needs to be a proper system in place that allows the body to become healthier through the system of yoga. And that is the reason why I've been numbering all these videos. So this is class number 4, and in this video I'll be talking about the dorsal stretching pose, also known as the hands and the leg pose, which is basically called Padahastasana or Padahastasana in Sanskrit. This pose is relatively simple, but then it's the simpler poses that usually tend to be very tricky because they need to be done according to a particular form, according to a particular technique. If you don't follow the technique properly with the simpler poses, what happens is they cease to be effective. In fact, they are completely ineffective if you're doing it using the wrong technique. So normally people, when they practice this pose, they just look at it as a forward bending pose, but it is far from that. It is not just a forward bending pose. It is a dorsal stretching pose wherein you're basically stretching your body right from the calf muscle to the back of the neck. So the entire back portion of the body, that is the dorsal region of the body, is getting a nice stretch. And in order to get that proper stretch, you need to follow certain rules while doing this pose. So even though this is a very popular pose, very simple pose, but it still needs to be done according to a proper technique. So just have a look at how you're supposed to do this dorsal stretching pose.
2 fingers distance between the 2 feet. The feet are parallel to each other. Now slowly, as you inhale, you raise both the hands up. Once the hands are over the head and the arms are by the side of the head, imagine that the hands are stuck to the side of the head, and now the head and the hands go back together slightly as you finish your inhalation. And as you exhale, try to bend at the hip joint, keeping the back as straight as possible so that the entire torso region goes down towards the floor. Make sure that the knees are straight when you do this, and completely exhale out when you reach the final position. Now in this position, you can either hold the breath out and maintain for 8 seconds, or you can maintain this position with normal abdominal breathing. Try to stretch downwards as much as possible. Then slowly, as you inhale, you slowly straighten the hips, straighten the hip joint, and get back to the original position. Let us look at this from another angle. As you can see, once the arms reach the side of the head, the arms and the arms are stuck to the side of the head, and then the head and the arms will move back together slightly as you finish the inhalation. And then as you exhale, you bend at the hip joint, and you can see the head and the arms are coming down together as if they are stuck to each other. And you're shifting the weight on the toes and trying to stretch the torso region towards the floor as much as possible by shifting the weight on the toes and keeping the knees as straight as possible. Your aim is to stretch the upper body towards the floor as much as possible. Then you inhale and straighten. The two important things that you need to notice in this pose is that once the arms are at the side of the head, they should move along with the head. They should be stuck, the arms should be stuck to the side of the head. You complete your inhalation as you go back, and then when you exhale and bend, you're bending at the hip joint, keeping the back as straight as possible. There shouldn't be any bending of the back till the hip joint has bent maximum, and the aim is to stretch downwards towards the floor and not to bend the back and try to bring the forehead to the knee. In fact, the knees should be straight, they should not bend, and you should only try to stretch downwards and then slowly inhale and straighten. One of the common mistakes that people make while doing this pose is that whenever they bend in front, they will bring the hand down first and then the head comes down, which is completely wrong. The head and the hands should be stuck to each other while they come down. The other mistake that people make while doing this pose is that when they are slightly bending behind, the head goes behind, but the hands remain vertical. That is wrong again, because the hands and the head should bend back together as if they are stuck to each other. And the biggest mistake that people make is that whenever they are bending in front, they will not bend at the hip joint, but they would rather bend at the back, and which is completely wrong, and they will forcefully try to bring the forehead to the knee. This is again completely wrong. This is not a forward bending pose, this is a dorsal stretching pose, so always remember that. So the correct form is that the arms are stuck to the side of the head, and whenever you're bending down, there is a slight arch in the back so that the bending is happening only at the hip joint. Your entire torso region is stretching downwards as much as possible by shifting the weight onto the toes. Also, you'll feel a nice dorsal stretch right from the calf muscle to the back of the neck, and that is how it is supposed to be done. You're trying to stretch downwards towards the floor. The other thing is that you should always remember to breathe in as you raise the hands up and go behind, and always breathe out when you bend the hips and stretch forward. Ensure that the back is as straight as possible and the knees are also straight, and you're simply shifting the weight on the toes and then breathe into straightening. I want you to understand that if I want to, I can easily bring my forehead uh, to the shin, but I'm deliberately not doing that because the aim is to stretch downwards, and the aim was never to bring the forehead to the knee but to stretch downwards, and hence that is what I'm doing over here. Now that we know the exact form and technique of doing this pose, let us see how we're supposed to practice this. You can do 8 rounds of this, uh, and this is supposed to be done with two other types of stretches. You're bending laterally first, raising the right hand sideways and sliding the left hand on the left thigh. Maintain for 8 seconds as you breathe out. Then slowly you breathe in and straighten the spine. And do the same thing on the other side by bending laterally on the right side this time, raising the left hand upwards. Palms are facing up of in front, and you're sliding the right hand on the right thigh this time. You breathe out and maintain the breath, hold the breath out for 8 seconds again, and then again straighten the spine. Then the next step would be the actual forward stretching. That is, you slowly breathe in, raise the hands up, and as you breathe in, hold the breath inwards for 8 seconds, and then again you breathe out and completely breathe out and maintain the forward stretching pose, dorsal stretching pose for 8 seconds again. So this entire thing completes one round. Do 8 such rounds, as this is a pose that progressively makes your body more and more flexible. So 8 rounds should be good enough.
So that was Padahastasana or Hastpadasana, also known as the hands and the legs pose or the dorsal stretching pose. You must have noticed how in the previous video, in the previous yoga practice, we were putting more weight on the heels, and in this one, we are putting more weight on the toes, and we are alternating between the two shifting of weights, like alternating between shifting the weight towards the heels and then shifting the weight towards the toes. Like in the previous yoga practice video, it was putting more weight on the heels, and over here we are putting more weight on the toes. So we are engaging all the muscles that get activated when all the different portions of the feet get like bear the weight of your body. So that will eventually help in the overall development of your body. And as I told you before, we are doing it according to a chronological sequence, class number 1 to class number 4, and then so on and so forth. So this will allow you to progress in the right direction, and I will be telling you later on why exactly we are doing, like we have been numbering these videos. So for now, this is it. I hope you learned a few new things related to the dorsal stretching pose, and do try out this pose and let me know what you think about it.